What is up, everybody? Chris Williams here, and we have a big-time treat for you on the Cyclone Fanatic Podcast Network, also on Cyclone Fanatic YouTube. If you haven't subscribed, that is what all the cool kids are doing. They're watching our podcast on YouTube. Go and find it. Hit that subscribe button today. Like us, review us, give us 5 stars, all that good stuff, wherever you listen to your podcast. We appreciate it. We've had basketball media days all week in Ames. I know, huge football game coming up. Not asking you to not pay attention to that. But did you know a couple of top 10 Cyclone basketball teams are going to be, well, you'll start seeing the polls here before too long. And I got to sit down with Iowa State men's basketball coach TJ Otzelberger, where we looked ahead to the upcoming season, challenges with the expectations. We talked about how you handling NIL in 2024. What about all the newcomers on the team, mixing them with one of the best backcourts in all of college hoops? We go inside Iowa State basketball in the office of TJ Otzelberger right here today on the Cyclone Fanatic Podcast Network. All right, Coach, here we are, Media Day. Appreciate you taking a little bit of time. How's life?
Life is good. This is a great time of the year, fun to be at practice, excited about what's going on in our fall sports, specifically football, and loving, being on the journey, practice every day with our guys. Fun time.
Well, you have a unique being here for as long as you have been, not necessarily as a head coach, but like Bloom and I were talking about this the other night, almost in the top 10 in football, where we think men's and women's basketball and wrestling are all going to be when these preseason polls come out. Like, is this as good as you remember it, just all the way around?
Yeah, I mean, for me, coming here 19 years ago and like seeing the vision that Jamie had and the progress and where all the programs were at that point, and then now what we've built and the sustainable success throughout our programs, and everybody's good. All of our teams are good. Everybody's competitive. It's a awesome time to be a Cyclone. Definitely the best I've seen, over that 19-year span for sure.
You've had recruits in for football games. And you've also had recruits in when football was lean. How much does that help when you take them to like a whiteout, like the scenario the other night? Because to me, like that's kind of the front door to everything.
Yeah, that the environment for our football games, the excitement, the fan base, the quality of the product, the team, and what a great job Coach Campbell does. It's awesome to take a recruit there because they can see the support, they can see the integrity of how we do things. I think, like iron sharpens iron, right? And so you can see what a great product that is all the way around, and it's definitely something that's a huge selling point for us.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about this year's team, and specifically, we know a lot about the players coming back because there's a ton of guys, but this is a different deal, though. It feels like the first few years you kind of exceeded lower expectations, maybe less last year, but this is like the first time that you guys are like coming in with a target maybe on your back. Is that, I don't know if that's accurate to say, but how are you dealing with that? How are the players dealing with that? What is the mindset going into the season?
Yeah, certainly, with the first 3 years, we weren't in the preseason top 10 or that sort of thing. And so I think we had a lot of new guys and people weren't quite sure how that would look and how that would fit together. So when you start the year, I think everybody has an open mind, and as certainly as we've done okay, thinking, hey, maybe we can be good. We're now, I think externally people look at it and say, well, they've got their 4 leading scorers back, 5 of their top 9 players. There's some continuity there. Now, this is what we would expect. And I'd say that on the inside, it doesn't impact how we work in our process and how we go about doing things. We do the work that we do, our process, our daily habits. We're committed to that every single day. What is going to be important as we move forward for our guys is that they keep their focus on what's right in front of them, have a great practice, have a great film session, because on the outside, there's going to be, from the fan standpoint, there's going to be certain expectations, but then there's also the other teams. You're not going to sneak up on anybody. So you've got to be prepared coming in now, knowing you're going to get everybody's best shot. You're not sneaking up on anybody or catching anybody off guard. And so I think that's a different mindset you have to approach it with and understand that and embrace it and welcome it. That's important.
What about for fans? Because like there's whatever the media poll is going to be, it's possible you guys could be in like the top 7 or 8 and be like picked 4th in the Big 12 or whatever. Like, How would you say to like a fan as far as like we could see a better basketball team at Iowa State, but maybe you have more losses in the league at the end of the year? How do you juggle all of that? It's really fascinating because it's changed so much.
Well, I think it's been well documented that the Big 12 is the best basketball league. I don't think that's debatable anymore over what's been proven in recent history. And now we have 2 more league games. So we go to 20 league games. So we have 2 more of those games as well. And so when you look at the quality of the programs in the league and the coaches and the teams, you've got, multiple national championship coaches, many that have gone to the Final Four. And now they've got, really good players and teams posed for great success. So there's the things you can control on a daily basis and the hard work and the intentionality and the focus on what you do. But there's other really good teams. And as much as we pride ourselves on being the team that's going to play harder, be tougher, and be more together, those other teams are doing that too with a great amount of talent. So I don't know, as we get to the games, I'll always believe like if we do the hard work, we put ourselves in the best position and then we'll see what happens. But to your point, there's a lot of challenging games on our schedule. And we could play well and lose. We could play great and lose. We could go on the road and play our A game and still not come out with a victory. That just speaks to how great the Big 12 is. And so we just got to take it one day at a time and be ready for that challenge.
So with the new league, I loved the old round robin. I know it's not coming back, but it kind of, I always felt like that second, when you started playing these teams for the second time, it had a little like NBA playoffs to it because it felt like the teams knew each other so well. And that was a grind because it felt like the scouting was always so much better the second time around. You don't necessarily have that now, and now you have all these new teams. Is that a different type of challenge almost? Can you explain just from a coaching standpoint and a program standpoint how you go about that?
Yeah, I mean, as much respect as we have for all the programs we compete against, we have a model and a way to do things on a daily basis that we keep that focus on that. We understand what wins, especially in the Big 12, the things that you need to do to be successful night in and night out. And so we lean into those things that we need to do. When it comes down to your opponents independently, to your point, like there's 4 new schools in the league. And last year there was new schools that came in the league. And then there's schools that are leaving the league. Mm-hmm. So I think the conferences being somewhat fluid and that is just a part of adapting now. It definitely does take away. I love the true round robin, right? Mm-hmm. I love the true. I love something about you know us and we know you. Yeah. And then this is what happened in our last battle, and we're both going to have to adapt a little, change a little, and make some things better. I love that mental challenge where now there's just more unknown, right? There's going to be a team you might play for the first time in February, and maybe you've never played them before in the history of your program, and now it's a conference game. So that's a unique dynamic, but we're focused on, we know what wins in this league, and we've got to stay committed to those things. And then out of respect for all the opponents as we lead into those games, there's certainly different nuances and schemes and things that you employ, but ultimately it's still going to come back to like the old-fashioned work habits.
Okay, so when I look at this year's team, knowing what I know, I see a great problem because I don't know who's going to play. Right, like I feel like I could maybe take 6 guys and be like, those guys are going to be in a good rotation. But I look 11, 12 deep, and I'm like, I feel like I could find a spot for all of them, depth wise, rotation wise, lineups. How are you approaching it as we're nearing the first game?
Well, different than some years past. Now we've had a lot more competition early in practice. We've balanced the teams and had guys go at it. There's a lot of days Taman and Keyshawn are guarding one another and going at it. And then across the board, how we do those things. And I think that's been great for overall our competitive spirit and for the what we've brought and what we're leaving on the court each day with practice. I feel like the intensity's been at a really high level. If you were to say, lineup, playing time, rotation, those things, like really truthfully, we haven't got to that yet, right? Yeah. Like we're not there. Sometimes teams know early exactly what they're going to be or who they're going to be. And I would say or suspect that we will have different starting lineups this year. I would anticipate there will be different lineups. There could be 7, 8, potentially 9 guys that start a game. That's different than what the position we were in for the most part last season. And so, I love that it's competitive. I love that there's a lot of combinations. part of it for us this year is going to be different guys on the court with one another and how do they impact each other? How do they fit together?
Makes sense.
It's not just a one-for-one. They're not all independent variables of, hey, just put the 5 quote-unquote best players or most talented or best scorers. It comes down to these guys do these things well, which complement these other guys. So I think moving one piece in the lineup or the rotation can have a big impact on the others.
Weren't you a little bit like that with Jones at the end of last year? I mean, it felt like anybody who's watching, he's one of the 5 best players. It was a little bit Tyrese McGee to me where it's just like, man, well, when that guy comes off the bench, you know you're getting a fresh starter. Is that what you're saying without saying it? Because, I mean, 7 or 8 different lineups that you could go with, I mean, based on matchups as well.
Yeah, when I look at it, I mean, there's probably for sure 8 guys in play that could reasonably be starters. And last year, as you mentioned, you could very easily make an argument for Kurt Jones for sure. He played starting minutes and beyond at the end of the season. Mm-hmm. And then even at the 5 position with Hassan Ward and Robert Jones, there was different times we started a different guy based on whether it was injury or for one reason or another. And so I think it's a great situation to have when you have 8 to 9 guys you feel like are capable of starting and have warranted, have proven that they're that level or ability of player, because then it allows you, when you talk about depth, it really comes down to nightly production and the consistency of that production. And we've got more veteran guys that have done it and are capable of doing it. And it should be a great thing for us every day for the competition and practice too.
I don't know if you'd agree with me. When I looked back at last year as I was preparing for this, the game that I keep circling that I thought was the most important game of the year was when Taman's out at TCU. Kurt and Keyshawn really just felt like they just took the team, right? It felt like with Taman being out, they rose to the occasion and never really looked back. Would you agree with that? And what did you see from them midway through last year to where they are now?
Well, that game was a very pivotal game because I think it's no secret how much Taman means to our program, our team, what a great player he is, how gifted he is. And when he's not to be able to be available for a game, what a different set of challenges that presents, certainly. And Keyshawn did a remarkable job of getting his teammates up and ready to play and empowering them and making them better and building their confidence so that we go out and have that performance. It proved to our guys, like, look, Taman plays 30 minutes a game, but he's not going to be in even when he's available for 10 minutes. Like, let's win those 10 minutes. And that's what our guys did. I felt like at the game at TCU, we won 10-minute segment 4 times, right, to put the whole game together. And so that was huge. Now, as you look at where we're at now, I'm never somebody that says because this happened last year, we're entitled to have this happen this year because, we're ranked here or thought of here. And so even when it comes down to how well a lot of our guys played last year, they played well because they worked their butt off. They practiced extremely hard. They were competitive and they found a way. And that same thing's going to be important this year. And the other teams don't come in and say, hey, you start at the same point you were at. We start over. And as much as I think those guys have great experience to call upon, they need to stack up the days and earn it just like they earned it last year if they're going to have that success and continue to even take that step forward in development we want them to take.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a little analysis here, and you tell me if I'm onto something. I was going to wait and save the NIL thing until the end, but I think you kind of just led me into it. When I've seen success at Iowa State in football and basketball, women's basketball over 20 years, it generally has come when there are returning players, not just for production on the court, on the field, whatever, but from in talking to all of you guys, that off-season stuff, right? There is this culture now in college athletics where we're seeing it in football all the time. Like the portal is like boom or bust. It's like these teams that'll bring in 25 new guys. They're either going to be really good or we see it fall apart really quickly. It felt like to me in the last couple of years, and you get this job and then NIL happens and like the whole thing explodes. Everything you've known prior to is different and you guys evolve to it. Is that one of the reasons why you guys put such an emphasis on keeping guys? Not right. You kept really good players. You didn't want to leave them, but right? There's this difference in keeping, especially with the way your offseason works. It sucks. It's not fun to have an Otzelberger offseason, from what I understand. If you didn't have those guys returning, even with the amount of talent that you brought in, is it even possible to live up to these expectations?
No, to your point, the retention and roster continuity is paramount if you're going to have a successful program that maintains a level of consistency over time. Continuing to retain, continuing to develop the players within your program, not just from a basketball standpoint, but their pride in Iowa State, what it means to be a Cyclone, the chip on their shoulder, how they love to be here and embrace doing hard things. We take a lot of pride in doing the hard things. Like we tell our guys, let's do the hard stuff so we go through things together. Let's embrace the adversity. And you mentioned even some of the things off season and preseason that we do.
But it's like, can Keyshawn be Keyshawn if he didn't have Taman pushing him and coaching him up, or Robert Jones last year with some of the younger bigs?
Well, the competition certainly allows you to play against, better talent, more competitive guys in practice, and then the pride they build within your program. So to your point, I think that's why guys have gotten better in our program. Huge credit to our assistant coaches. They put a tremendous amount of time into the young men in our program. And it's also the quality of the teammates and the guys that you're putting around them, because it is having those battles every day. It is, if you're playing against Taman every day, if you're Keyshawn, you're playing against one of the best guards in the Big 12 every single day, so you're preparing for that. If you're vice versa, if you're Taman, going against Keyshawn, you're playing against one of the best. So to me, that's really helped us. Continuity is so important. And as we look at the team, as much as you look at a season and say, we want to win every game, we want to have the best team we can this year, you're always still thinking about how are we going to continue to retain and develop the guys that are in our program, because that's our best chance to have really good seasons, is to continue to have those guys, develop those guys, and they stay with us.
I'll go back to it. He just got inducted to the Hall of Fame, so I'll bring him up. I mean, it's why I think in 20 years, Melvin Ejim might be the most important Cyclone, because of that time when you're bringing in these transfers. Like, to me, like looking back at it, he was that glue. That it's like when Chris Allen and Corey Lucius come in, you've got this guy who's yelling at you, telling you what to do. I mean, do you agree with that to a point?
Melvin has meant as much to this program as anybody has. And I'll just say it, like any one person, Melvin Ejim has meant as much. And from the standpoint of the work habits, the consistency, but even shifting the mindset, I watched on a daily basis him go out there and say, we are not losing anymore. We are going to win. And follow me, because I'm going to show you how we do it, by how we work, what we do in the classroom, how we treat people, how we compete on game night, how we take our individual workout, how our film session. He completely shifted the way of thinking, within the realm of our program by his work habits, his competitive spirit. And then to your point, he established the standard of like, this is how we're doing things, and I'm not accepting anything less, which is what leads him to then being, I remember a story when he was in my office and he said, what do I need to do to get respect? I said, why don't you lead the league in rebounding? And he may or may not have taken his fist and put it in a aggressive manner towards the wall and said, all right, count on it. I'm going to do that. And then he sets out at 6'5", right? At 6'5", and goes and leads the league in rebounding. Now, mind you, well, he's out there in his years, in his 4 years that he played here, right? He played alongside Jamie Vanderbeeken as a freshman, okay? Played alongside Royce White as a sophomore and George Niang as a junior and senior. As great of offensive players as those guys are, Melvin was also guarding the other team's best front court player at 6'5". So it wasn't as he had a job to roam around. He's got to guard an NBA player and then find a way to get 10 rebounds every night and make us win. So that alone, that like competitive spirit, toughness, grit, character, and then the guy ends up becoming Big 12 Player of the Year, student, scholar, athlete of the year. So,
we got to do an off-season podcast on some of these guys.
Yeah, Melvin's
do like a whole series on it. Yeah,
that'd be great. No, there's been a lot of guys that have impacted this program, and love to speak about. And Melvin is someone I watched what it looked like every day.
Well, because the reason that triggered for me is I know how hard Pete works these guys in the off-season, and it's just not normal for anyone to come through from a high school program, no matter how good it is, or usually transferring from a mid-major. Those are the types of transfers you get to be it's hard to work that hard,
Yep.
right, without leadership around. And I've learned how important those guys are. And Robert Jones, I felt like that was kind of that guy for you in the last couple of years. Let's move on to some of these other guys. I want to talk about Momcilovic. You said today in your press conference that he's added 15 pounds. What does that do for him?
So Milan knew he had a job to do in the offseason. Add strength, mobility, flexibility, explosiveness, and that was going to be a huge commitment in the weight room. The things that he does on the court in terms of the explosion, the mobility, it's a nutritional commitment. It's take care of your body commitment. It's challenge yourself outside the comfort zone. He absolutely answered the call on doing that job. And so he looks entirely different. He carries himself differently. His confidence is entirely different, and he should feel great. I'm still challenging him because I don't think he knows how much stronger and how much better he's moving and how to incorporate that into his production on the court. Been really excited about his path and continue movement forward. Everybody in our program has to take a step. Everybody has to be better. I have to be better as a head coach. Our assistant coaches have to be better. Our players have to be better. For Milan, it comes down to really two things at the end of the day for me. Hunt more threes. Be like the most aggressive, stone cold hunting three-point shooter in the country, because at 6'8", 6'9", with the release that he has, like there's not a lot defenses can do when he's out there just hunting shots. And then on the other end, because he's bigger and stronger and moving better, and I think his confidence is higher, we need the production on the glass. We need him to be a guy that says, you know what, I'm going to go out there and get us 6 rebounds every single night. And he's capable of doing it, and those two areas are the steps for him that we're excited for him to take. Did
he exceed expectations as a defender at the end of his freshman year? Or did he meet them? Where would he have been?
Yeah, the thing I'd say about Milan, and again, it all kind of goes hand in hand with the 5 guys. Like, we had really fast twitch athletes across the board, whether it's on the perimeter at the guarding the basketball, or the guys defending the screens with Trey King and Hassan Ward and Rob Jones. Milan became a very good positional defender. He's a guy that he's always in the right spot. He knows where the rotations are, and he has a awareness of what the other team is going to accomplish. Where we need him to take a step is we need him to finish possessions, right? You can finish possessions with blocks, steals, rebounds. We need him to be a guy that says, I'm not just an offensive talent. I'm a guy that, from a rebounding and finishing possession standpoint, I could take that step. But again, answering your question directly, I think he did a solid job for us down the stretch last year.
Last guy I wanted to bring up and then get to some newcomers is not knowing Demarion Watson felt like a guy where it's like, yeah, maybe he'll hit the portal to get an increased role somewhere else. He was really good at the end of last year. He helped you win a lot of basketball games, and I was fired up that he's still a Cyclone. I know he's put on weight. What are you seeing from him?
Yeah, D-Wad as well. I mean, we're talking, again, another guy, 15 pounds of muscle. Credit to Pete Link for the great job he does. Credit to Demarion for making the investment in himself. He's still adding weight even right now, which is impressive. Look, he brings a unique dynamic to our team. At his size, with his athleticism and his anticipation, he's able to be a disruptor defensively, whether that means guard a guard, block a shot, keep a possession alive, you name it, right? There's kind of a mixed bag of the things he can bring to us defensively. And then offensively, giving us someone who can cut along the baseline and be a weapon and being an offensive rebounder. And he's continued to put work on knocking down the perimeter shot. It's about him finding that right balance, because we need the cutting. We need the scoring the points at the rim, the rebounding. But then when he's doing those things with effort and force, when a three-point shot shows up, we believe he'll knock it down. And really the Oklahoma game last year stands out in a game where he stepped up in a major way and had a huge part in us being successful. And it was exactly that. He defended, he rebounded, he cut, he scored, he offensive rebounded. A three-pointer shows up. He hits a pivotal three late in the game to give us some separation. And so we're excited to bottle up that type of game and hit repeat for him this year.
Loved it when he got that standing ovation in that game. It was one of my favorite moments of the season. Let's hit on some of these newcomers, and then we'll wrap things up. I know it's a busy day. The guy I keep hearing about is probably the most familiar with Iowa State fans is Nate Heise. We watched him in the Valley the last few years. Sounds like you guys love this kid.
Relentless competitor, and he's a winner. He brings it. He's an everyday guy. He does physical things. He does effort-based things. He loves to win the matchup. Like, he looks at it like, I'm going to lock this guy up tonight. Offensively, we've seen him continue to be more aggressive. My challenge for him is keep being more aggressive, whether that's making plays, driving the basketball, attacking closeouts, cutting, or knocking down shots. Like, for him, I just want aggressive. Like, he can do all those things. It's just got to be aggressive. And he's been somebody that has been a big, a bright spot for us. We had confidence in him coming in. We knew he was coached really well by Coach Jacobson at Northern Iowa. We have 2 assistants on our staff who were at Northern Iowa. Well, he was there, so they have witnessed what that looked like with him. And he's been somebody that, you know, one of those guys that you say, what's Iowa State basketball about? It's about the things that Nate Heise does and brings and who he is as a person, and excited to see what he'll continue to bring.
He plays a lot of positions too, right?
He does. He has great versatility. He fits with a lot of lineups and combinations because he's a low turnover guy. He gets rebounds. He can do a lot of things offensively, and he can guard 2 to 3, maybe even 4 positions at times on the court.
The 2 bigs, Deshaun Jackson and I guess Brant. We don't call him Branton, I guess, I've been told.
His mother does, but we call him Brant.
Okay. Brant Chatfield. I mean, not knowing a ton about him, it's just a ton of size, right? And that's massive in this league.
Yeah, I mean, with Deshaun, you're a guy who's 6'11", 270. He's got great hands. He's a great facilitator, decision maker with the basketball, can finish, driving left, driving right, can, complete plays with both hands. Defensively, gives you that rim protection. He's always been a guy who's been a good defensive rebounder, and he has a maturity and a leadership quality to him. Like, he's been through some things, he's had some experiences, and he's confident in his abilities and what he can bring. And it's been great to see his progression and improvement, because I love when you see guys that get better, that keep getting better, and he's one of those guys for sure. And then with Brant Chatfield, man, fans are going to love him. He is a hard-playing, physical, blue-collar, everyday guy, right? If you didn't know where he was from, everybody would think he's from a rural farm town in Iowa, and he grew up, working in the farm field. Like, he is a lunch pail, blue-collar, bring it, leave it on the court everyday guy. Shooting in practice, he's like shooting like 90-something% from the field. He's so efficient. He finishes at
Bring that on.
Bring it on. He's a great finisher.
He looked like an analytics guy, like when I was just looking at his profile when you guys got him.
He is. And offensive rebounding, man, he goes to the boards now. And he's added, like when he played last year, he finished the year around 230, and he's right near 260. So the work he's done.
That's really hard to do.
With his body, yeah, and put it on. So really happy about those guys. Both of them bring a lot to the table.
Joshua Jefferson, it was one of the last pieces in this transfer portal. And again, like him and Heise both, I just look at these guys and they give you so much versatility. Jefferson coming off of an injury that he experienced at the end of last year. Will he be ready to go? How's he doing?
So Joshua, wasn't able to participate in live workouts the majority of the summer. Fortunate at the end, we got 5 or 6 practices with him. This fall, he's been really good. But as we've started practice, he's taken a huge step. For him, he's 6'8", 6'9". He weighs 240. And I think sometimes he doesn't quite realize how powerful he is as well. He's got a very good feel and vision offensively. He sees all the passes. He knows the plays a step ahead. And where we've seen him take a big jump right now is the physical things, the rebounding, finishing around the rim, jump walling, and preventing opponents from scoring at the rim. When Joshua focuses on doing those physical things and is a big-time rebounder and a big-time finisher and big-time in the paint defensively, the skill part tends to shine for him. So he was our rebounder of the week this past week, which was huge. And now it's something I'm going to hold him accountable. There's no reason he can't strive to do that every week. But he's been a very great surprise. I shouldn't say surprise. I've been familiar with him for a number of years, but we've been happy with the progress he's made from week to week.
So Iowa State fans love a guy. We saw it with Milan last year, who can stand in the corner and just hit a ton of threes. Noyos Indrusitis, where does he fit in? Because it seems like he's a guy in like most years that would come in and maybe even start as a true freshman. How are you working with him?
Yeah, he's a tremendous talent. I mean, we saw this summer in the FIBA basketball over in Europe on the under-18s. He was one of the best scorers on the circuit, averaged around 20 a game. A guy that can make shots, make plays, is a guy that takes possessions from good to great. As the ball's moving, he's somebody that really knows how to play. He's still, like most freshmen, the physical nature of it, finishing at the rim, how physical it is, getting rebounds in traffic. Those are things he's working and competing every day. I've really been pleased with Noyes. I've really been pleased with him. And as you mentioned, we have other really good guards out there. And so he's competing against those guys every single day. Excited about what he brings to the table. As you mentioned, we do have some really good older guards. I still want for him the challenge and say, you know what, I respect those guys. Those guys are great, but I'm bringing it today. And if I can take some minutes from you, I'm going to take those minutes and I'm going to earn those minutes. And I know he wants to earn those opportunities. And to me, that's a great thing as the coach when you have guys who are really good players who want to compete every day to earn opportunity.
The other freshman guy we all saw walking around last year with a red shirt, JT Rock, seems to me, too, a little bit similar to the conversation we just had about Noyos. I mean, he is playing against grown men at that 5 spot, and I feel like that has to help him in his future.
It does. I mean, and JT still, he's 18.
Yeah.
This is his normal true freshman year. So, when you come in a year early like he did, crazy to think about starting college a year early. And then not only that, come into a program that practices like we do and plays in the Big 12. What a big jump that is for anyone. And he handled it so well. So many great things happened in the redshirt year. And again, another guy, his body has completely changed. He looks different.
Like it.
Yeah. He's just, the muscle he's put on, he's finishing more, dunking on people more, blocking more shots around the rim. Really pleased with the progress he makes. There's probably 3 or 4 things a day he does in practice that, have a little wow factor to him at his size. And so similarly to Noyes, from the standpoint of challenges, other guys you're going against every day are in year 5 of college basketball, year 6 of college basketball. They have those experiences. They have, over 150, maybe 200 games under their belt that they've played. And so that's the only thing at this point that JT, he's missing is just, that opportunity, that experience under his belt. But I feel like what he's getting every day in practice is invaluable, even more valuable probably at times in the game minutes because the amount of reps that we have out there to take, and just been pleased with how he's continued to develop.
I am fired up and appreciate your time, man. This has been awesome, and I know it's so funny, and this is a great thing. Normally, in my career of doing this, we would have been just obsessed with basketball, but football's had us all a little bit, so we've been leaving you guys alone a little bit, but I'm excited because I think the month of November is going to be – you guys are in Maui. The women play UConn and South Carolina, and I think football is going to be right in the middle of hopefully a Big 12 championship run. So this is as good as it gets.
Well, I think to your point, it's such a great time to be a Cyclone, right?
Yeah.
All of our sports teams are successful. We're all elevating one another. We want to do our part as a men's basketball program because we're excited about all the other programs and what they're doing. So fun time to be a Cyclone, and, man, we're going to embrace it.
Well, go get them. Appreciate you, man.
Thank you very much.
That's TJ Otzelberger. Thanks for listening. Subscribe. You guys know the drill. We appreciate you all for paying attention.